Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting video. Today we are going to see ISO 9001-2015 clause number 5, which is about leadership. Before we actually see the standard, the actual standard by itself, it is better to understand, it is always advisable to understand the key requirements of any clause for that matter, not only ISO 9001, for any standard. It's very important to know what this particular clause requires us to do. And then it is very easy for anybody to understand when you read the actual standard by itself. So let us see the requirements first for this clause number 5, which is about leadership. Let us understand the key requirements of this clause before actually seeing the clause itself in the standard. So the first requirement says the top management must manage and not delegate quality. So this means that the management must not delegate the work of quality to the leaders of the departments and functions, but it should manage by itself the quality. Now, what do you mean by manage itself the quality? We will see this in detail in the coming slides. So the second requirement is that the leadership should have defined responsibilities for ensuring quality execution. And when we say leadership here, it does not only refer to the top management. It refers to all the leaders of various departments in the organization and their sub-leaders as well. So right from top to bottom across the organization, wherever there is a leadership role, it should have a defined responsibility. And this defined responsibility should be scripted by the management. And when we say responsibility here, there is a note of caution here. This responsibility does not mean the operational responsibilities in the core activities of the department. This refers to the quality responsibilities that contribute towards the effectiveness of the quality management system. So basically here we are talking about the responsibilities that integrate the quality into the operational roles of the department, right? So this is a place where many people get mistaken, and they refer these responsibilities to the operational responsibilities. But here we are talking basically about the quality responsibilities that drive the quality across the organization. Coming to the third requirement of this clause is emphasis on customer focus with respect to three things. First is the compliance to statutory requirements. The second, customer focus is required on the risks. Now, when we say risks here, it does not mean the health and safety risks. What we mean here is the business risks. So that means, for example, if the customer operations are susceptible to a risk due to your activity, you must have a counteraction plan for that, and it should be tested and implemented. So this is what we mean by the risk here, which is the business risk. And the third, customer focus is to be required on enhancing customer satisfaction. Please note that here we are talking about enhancing the customer satisfaction and not the customer satisfaction itself. So this means that there should be a process in place to capture the customer satisfaction. There has to be a process in place to review the customer satisfaction. And these review should be precipitated, should boil down to an action plan which has the capability of enhancing customer satisfaction. So the third requirement in the clause number 5 is basically customer focus on compliance to statutory requirements, risks, and customer satisfaction enhancement. Coming to the fourth key requirement of clause number 5, leadership. Management's responsibilities include quality policy establishment. That means it is part of the management's responsibility to create a quality policy that is appropriate to its business and communicate this quality policy across the organization. So it is not just a responsibility of the management to create a quality policy, but it has to also ensure that it is well communicated across the organization and understood by the people of the organization as to how it applies to their business and activities. So if we are able to understand these four requirements of clause number 5, the standard clause by itself seems to be very easy to us. Let us now understand the key requirements in detail very quickly. So we had seen the first requirement of this clause number 5 as top management must manage and not delegate quality. So at that point of time, we were asking a question to ourselves that how is the management going to manage by itself? You remember we had studied just 10 minutes before that the top management must manage the quality by itself and not delegate the quality work to all the leaders of various departments in the organization. So the question remains the same. How is the management, top management, going to manage by itself? So this is done by the top management defining a quality framework. So what will the top management do? Top management will define a quality framework under which the entire company will work. Now for creating, defining a quality framework, naturally the top management will need some inputs. So from where the top management is going to take these inputs for defining a quality framework? So the top management will take inputs from three sectors. The first is the voice of the customer. The second is the voice of the business. And the third input that the top management will take is the requirements of the international standard ISO 9001 itself. So when I say voice of customer and voice of business, what we mean is the customer requirements, the business requirements, and the international standard ISO 9001 requirements. So these are the three sectors from which the top management will take the inputs and create a quality framework under which the entire company needs to operate. So now what is a quality framework? Let's see how a typical quality framework might look like. So this could be an example of a very basic typical type of quality framework that is defined by the management under which the entire organization will need to work. Of course, there is no generic form of the quality framework. Each organization will naturally have its own unique quality framework depending upon what the business they are into and how wide is their operations, plus many other factors that affect the construction of a quality framework. But by and large, for our understanding, this is a very common quality framework that is defined by the management. So when we come to when the top management comes to the quality framework construction, we have seen in the previous slides that they take inputs from three sectors. So these three sectors are written on the left-hand side: customer requirement, business requirement, and the standard ISO 9001 requirement. And on the top horizontal row, you will see some parameters. So these are the most common parameters that any customer will care for, and these are the most common parameters as well for which any organization will care for. So this is a product quality, this is the delivery, cost, and the safety. So on the left hand side, you have the inputs that the management is going to take, and on the horizontal axis, on the x-axis, you see some parameters which are quite important to both the customer and the supplier. So, of course, there are organizations who can have these parameters running into 10, 15, and there are organizations, depending upon their business, who will like to have these parameters limited to what we are seeing on the screen, that is 4, or maybe 2. This depends on the nature of the business and the extent of the operations that are spread out. But for understanding, this is a very good example, and most of the companies, in fact, use this type of quality framework. So you will have something under product quality, you will have something under delivery, you will have something under cost, you will have something under safety. Inputs of whose will be taken from customer requirement, business requirement, and standard ISO 9001 requirement. So let us take further examples. Let us go further deep in this example. So let's go further deep into the quality framework given by the management. So here we have in front of us a lot of objectives and indicators that are from product quality, that are from delivery, that are from cost and safety. Inputs of whose have been taken from customer requirement, business requirement, and standard requirement. So for example, have a look under product quality. We have, for example, specifications. So specifications are naturally given by the client. So inputs of the specification are taken from the customer requirement. As I said, this is just an example. You can have a lot of other objectives depending upon your business of the organization under product quality and other parameters. So coming to delivery, so on-time delivery rate could be another objective in the quality framework. Obviously, the input of whose has to be taken from the customer requirement, because customer will tell you what is the on-time delivery rate which will make him happy, or which will run his business efficiently. Similarly, in the cost, the objective could be a selling price input taken from the customer. And under safety, you could have an objective of, for example, product quality, product safety. Input of whose obviously coming from the customer, because customer will tell in what environment he has to use your product. Similarly, inputs from business requirement will have, let's say, under product quality, high yield. So high yield is something that your business will care for more than the customer. So high yield means the percentage of the production that is first time right, with the minimum rejection, minimal rework, minimal rejection. And similarly in delivery, you will have on-time delivery rate from suppliers, from your suppliers. Uh, so in the customer requirement delivery parameter, we have the on-time delivery rate. That means the on-time delivery to your client. But here in the business requirement, we have the on-time delivery from your suppliers. So and so on. Also notice in the customer requirement, for example, you had product safety, because this is what the customer cares for. And in the business requirement, under safety, you have the process safety, because this is what is important for your business. Similarly, in the inputs that are coming from the standard requirement, you will have objectives and indicators which will ensure that a proper review is possible for the above objectives, and a proper action plan could be taken if these objectives are not up to the mark. So basically, inputs coming from the standard will be used to integrate the quality and customer requirement and business requirement. And I think this is enough for all of us to understand the key requirements of clause number 5. And now let's move on to the actual standard and let us see what is in clause number 5 in the standard itself. So clause number 5, leadership, is further subdivided into 3 clauses: 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. 5.1 is about leadership and commitment, which is further subdivided into 2 subclauses: 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. So 5.1.1 is about leadership and commitment of top management towards quality management system, and 5.1.2 is about leadership and commitment of top management towards customer focus. So basically both the subclauses 5.1.1 and 5.1.2 talks about the leadership and commitment of the top management, where one is towards or with respect to quality management system, while the other is with respect to customer focus. 5.2 is about policy, quality policy, which also is further divided into 2 subclauses, 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. So 5.2.1 is about establishing the quality policy, is about the top management establishing the quality policy, creating and identifying, creating the quality policy. 5.2.2 is about communication of the quality policy. So once the quality policy is established, it must be communicated to the entire organization. So that's 5.2.2. 5.3 is about organizational roles, organizational responsibilities, and organizational authorities. So what kind of authorities? That are sufficient to drive your responsibilities. These are the authorities that are needed so that you can fulfill your responsibilities. And who will do that? Obviously the top management, because clause number 5 is about the top management involvement. So the top management shall assign the responsibility and authority across the organization. So this is how clause number 5 is stacked up. Let's see clause number 5.1.1. So 5.1.1 is about the general requirements on the leadership and commitment demonstration by the management towards QMS, towards quality management system. And the top management should demonstrate leadership and commitment. How? Point number A, by taking accountability for the effectiveness of the quality management system. So I have enlarged it for you for easy readability. So taking accountability for the effectiveness of the quality management system. So the top management has to be accountable. Please note here that we are not talking here about responsibility. We are mentioning the word accountability. Responsibility is for an individual, but when we talk of accountability, we talk of a group of people. So accountability is quite higher than responsibility, or you can say responsibility is part of accountability. But by and large, when you say accountability, it is meant for a larger group of people. So responsibility is individuality and accountability is for a group of people. So this is what the standard asks you, that the top management must be accountable for the entire organization. For what? For the effectiveness of the quality management system. So wherever in the organization, if the quality management system doesn't seem to be effective, who is accountable? It's not the leaders of the departments, it's not the operators, it is the top management. Point number B, ensuring that the quality policy and the quality objectives are established by obviously the top management for the quality management system, and moreover they are compatible with the context and strategic direction of the organization. Let us understand the meaning of this line in the standard. So ensuring means the top management must ensure that the quality policy and the quality objectives are established, created. So whose job it is? It is the top management's job. They must get involved in the creation of quality policy and the creation of quality objectives for the quality management system. And these quality objectives must be compatible with the context of the organization. So what is context? Context basically refers to clause number 4. So in my previous video on clause number 4, you can see in detail what is the meaning of context of the organization. But in brief, as of now, you can understand that context is basically the circumstances which affect the existence of an organization. So what is context of organization? Basically, it is circumstances, situations that affect the very existence of the organization. So what he's trying to say here is the quality objectives must be compatible with the situations which affect the existence of the organization, right? That means the in simple word, it means the company's growth, basically, for example, should be sensitive to the quality objectives. Now imagine a situation where you have quality objectives, and no matter what you achieve in them, they are not affecting the organizational growth. They are not affecting the organizational profitability. They are not contributing to the organizational quality management system. So that means these quality objectives are not compatible with the context of the organization. These situations, the circumstances that affect the existence of the organization, they are not affecting. So basically, they are useless. We don't want these type of quality objectives that are insensitive to the context of the organization, right? So the company growth must be sensitive to the quality objectives. And these quality objectives and policy should be compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. Now, what is strategic direction? Strategic direction, again, you can see my video on clause number 4. But as of now, in brief, strategic direction means the direction which leads us to our targeted results. So if I want to be number one in Asia market, for example, this is my strategy, that I want to be number one in Asia market in the next 2 years. So if I have if I have objectives that help me to achieve that, that means these quality objectives are directed towards my end desired goal. So this is called strategic direction. That means the direction or the nature of the quality objectives that are taking me towards my desired end result. That is called a strategic direction. So quality objectives and quality policy must be aligned with the strategic direction of the organization. Point number C, ensuring the integration of the quality management system requirements into the organization's business processes. That is the core activities to the purposes of the organization's existence. So who will ensure? Obviously the top management, because clause number 5 is all about top management. So top management will ensure the integration of the QMS into the organization's business processes. So this is very important, because many a times it has been seen that the core operations run separately in isolation and the QMS runs separately in isolation. They don't get married to each other. So each entity is working independently. The organization processes and the QMS, they have to be gelled together. That means the quality management system should be part of the organization's activities. So we need to integrate them. For example, as we see here, if this is a production activity and this is a quality management system activity, this is an extremely wrong way to work. So this is the requirement of point number C, the integration of QMS and business processes. Point number D, promoting the use of process approach and risk-based thinking. We have already seen what is the meaning of process approach when we were trying to understand the requirements of clause number 5. So the top management responsibility is also to promote, to encourage the use of process approach and risk-based thinking in the operations. So all over the operations in the organization, the top management must promote, must encourage risk-based thinking. So what is a risk-based thinking? It is here, first of all, we are talking about business risk. So this means that taking into account all possible business risks that can occur at your customer's end. After that, taking a counteraction plan for them and determining mitigation plan, determining a reaction plan for these risks. This is called risk-based thinking, so that we don't have surprises in our organization. Everything, all the risks have been taken care of. Next one is ensuring that the resources needed for the quality management system are available. That means it is also the responsibility of the top management to ensure that whatever resources are there that are required for the QMS are made available in the organization. So resources can be human resources, it can be raw material resources, it can be machines and equipment, it can be a working environment, and so on. Whatever is needed, it can be intellectual properties. So whatever is required as a resource in order to fulfill the quality management system, the top management must ensure that they are made available. So the top management's responsibility also includes in communication of what? In communication of the importance of effective quality management system and the importance of conforming to the quality management systems. So the management is supposed to is supposed to communicate at all levels of the organization that why it is important for you, me, and the supplier and the customer. Why it is important for all of us to have an effective quality management system, and why it is important for all of us to conform, to comply, to follow the quality management system requirements. Ensuring that the quality management system achieves its intended result. So this is also the management's responsibility to ensure that whatever has been planned in quality management system in QMS does achieve its intended results. So that means it is not like this that the management has planned everything in QMS, given responsibilities to all its leaders in the organization, and that's it. The role of the management is finished. It is not like that. The management has to also ensure, that means it has to have a monitoring system, a review system, which ensures that the QMS does actually achieve its intended result. It is very important for the management to ensure the involvement of all its stakeholders. So it's not only employees, but all those people who affect the organizational growth. So getting people engaged, directing people, and then supporting people who contribute to what? Who contribute to the effectiveness of the quality management system. That means people who ensure that whatever has been planned in the quality management system does actually happen. And when they do so, they are contributing to the effectiveness of the quality management system. What is effectiveness? What has been planned is being delivered. What is planned is being delivered. If that is the case, it is called effectiveness of anything. So whatever has been planned in the quality management system, people who ensure that it does materialize into desirable results, that means they are contributing to the effectiveness of the quality management system. Such people should be supported by the top management, and the top management must ensure a total employee involvement. So it's not only leaders, it's not only sub-leaders, it's not only in charge of some shift or some selected people. It has to be a total employee involvement. This is what is meant in point number H, promoting improvement. So it is also the job of the top management to ensure that they promote improvement. How will they do this? So they must launch various reward and recognition schemes, which motivates the employees to do more and more towards the effectiveness of the quality management system. For example, there are some people who contribute as an extraordinary, exemplary example for the organization. These people must be recognized and suitably, appropriately rewarded so that it sets an example for others to get motivated. And finally, the management must support other relevant management roles apart from themselves to demonstrate their leadership as it applies to their areas of responsibility. So they must also endeavor, make effort to create more and more leaders like themselves in the organization by supporting other relevant management roles like them. 5.1.2, customer focus. So this subclause is about the top management's demonstration ability for leadership and commitment. For what? For customer focus. And this they will demonstrate by the following 3 points. Point number A, by ensuring that the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements are determined. That means whatever statutory and regulatory requirements that are applicable to their customer, they are determined, first of all, identified, understood what it means and what is the interpretation for that, and consistently met. So by doing this, we are demonstrating as a management leadership and commitment towards customer focus, because we are talking about the statutory and regulatory requirements applicable to the customer. And that's why we are demonstrating customer focus directed leadership and commitment. Second point by which the top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment towards customer focus is that the risks and opportunities in the business that can affect the conformity of products and services, that means the correctness of the products and services, and the ability to enhance customer satisfaction are determined and addressed. That means whatever risks and opportunities could be there in the business, they must identify them. So which type of risks and opportunities? Those types of risks and opportunities that can affect positively or negatively the conformity of products, that means the correctness of the products and services. And they can also affect the ability to enhance customer satisfaction in a positive way or in a negative way. All these risks and opportunities must be identified and addressed. Point number C. The management will focus on enhancing customer satisfaction. So here we are not talking about customer satisfaction, or we are talking about the increase, the continuous increase, enhancement in customer satisfaction. And this should be a maintained culture. This should be a continuous habit. This is what it means by maintained. So the focus on enhancing, increasing customer satisfaction is maintained. That means the habit of increasing customer satisfaction is a consistent one. 5.2 policy. 5.2.1 establishing the quality policy. So as we have seen, the top management shall establish, implement, and maintain a quality policy, which is what? Which is appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization. So we have seen that the quality policy must be aligned to the purpose of the business, the purpose of the organization, the context of the organization. So it should not happen that the strategies of the company is going on the right hand side and the policy is going on the left hand side. So this policy must be appropriate to the purpose, context of the organization, and it should support its strategic direction. We have seen in the key requirements of this clause, what do we mean by strategic direction? Point number B, this quality policy should provide a framework. Now see, if we had not studied what is a framework in the key requirements, you will not understand what is he meaning by a framework here. So that's why it is very important to understand the key requirements of anything before studying the standard itself. So this quality policy should provide a framework for setting the quality objectives. Point number C, this quality policy devised, created, established by the top management should include a commitment to what? To satisfy the applicable requirements. So it should have, this quality policy should have a commitment from the top management. A commitment on what? That it is committed to satisfy the applicable requirements of this standard. And last point, number D of 521 is that this policy should include a commitment to continual improvements as well. So the top management should be committed not only to satisfy the applicable requirements of this clause, but the top management should also be committed to a continual improvement of the quality management system. That means to make improvement should be a culture in the organization, and this is the commitment that the top management needs to demonstrate. 5.2.2 Communication of the quality policy. Now tell me one thing, if you create a very nice quality policy completely aligned to the business, completely aligned to the context of the organization, but you keep that policy in a file or on the wall in your office, and that's it. Is it going to serve any purpose? No. Is it going to help the organization comply with the standard? No. So that means the communication of the quality policy and its understanding by the employees is the key to the compliance of the standard itself. So the quality policy shall, so whenever the standard says shall, it means it is mandatory. The quality policy shall, point number A, be available and be maintained as a documented information. So wherever we have used the word documented information, first of all, that means it has to be a controlled document, and its revisions have to be maintained, and the reason for revision history has also to be maintained. So that means whenever we use documented information word for any subclause, it cannot be verbal. It has to follow the control mechanism of documentation. So point number A says the quality policy shall be available at the point of use. So be available means if I am an operator working on an assembly line and the quality policy is with my manager who is also on the assembly line, even then it is no use to me because I will never go to his office, maybe or not too often, and I will not have access to the quality policy. So the quality policy shall be available at the point of use, right? So people are not going to come to the quality policy. The quality policy has to be ensured by the management that it reaches out to every nook and corner of the organization. So the quality policy shall be available at the point of use and be maintained as a documented information, a controlled document. Point number B, the quality policy shall be communicated, understood. This is very important. I have seen in organizations the quality policy is well communicated. Everybody has by-hearted the quality policy. I go to an production line and all the operators have by-hearted the quality policy because they have been told to do so just to demonstrate that the quality policy has been well communicated. But when you start asking questions on the quality policy, or even if you ask a very basic question as to, can you explain me how is this quality policy applicable to your business? It's a very straightforward question. Whatever you are doing from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. in your general shift, how is this work associated to the quality policy? If I am not able to answer this question, uh, just a communication of the quality policy, let me tell you, is useless. So the quality policy has to be communicated, and this word is very important, understood. It has to be understood by the people of the organization and how it is applicable to their business and what is the interpretation of the quality policy. Please understand, quality policy is a very generic statement. If you do not have access to its interpretation, if you do not understand its interpretation, how it is applicable to your business, this generic statement is superfluous. It's going to have absolutely no meaning. It's just a formality that you are completing. Don't do it in that case. So it has to be understood on the applicability to your business and what is the interpretation. There is a hell lot of interpretation that goes into a quality policy, which people are not aware of. So be communicated, understood, and applied within the organization. Obviously, if you do not understand the applicability of the quality policy to your business or the interpretation of this policy in terms of your type of work, how are you going to apply it within the organization? I don't understand. So this is what I have been telling to people during my audits. Please make your quality policy not just as a formality because you have to do it in the ISO requirement. Have its interpretation first of all in place and communicate this interpretation in terms of the applicability to your business to everybody in the organization. And then people will start contributing in terms of applying the policy to the organization. And this is what is required by the standard. Point number C, the quality policy shall be available to relevant interested parties as appropriate. So when we say interested parties, it can be employees, it can be suppliers, it can be customers, it can be the company's financial stakeholders, or it can be the community around your business which is affected by your business activity. So whosoever is impacted by your business or can impact your business is an interested party. First of all, we must understand who is an interested party. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry cannot be an interested party. People who can affect your business, or the people whom your business can affect, are interested parties. So the quality policy should be made available to relevant interested parties as appropriate. So when I say as appropriate, it means that whether or not they impact your business or not, or whether or not they are impacted by your business activity. 5.3, organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. So in this clause, the top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for what? For A, ensuring that the quality management system conforms to the requirements of this international standard. That means the top management has to ensure that there are people who have the responsibility and authority who will ensure that the company's QMS, quality management system, does conform, does comply to the requirements of the standard ISO 9001. Point number B, the top management shall assign responsibility and authority for ensuring that the processes are delivering their intended outputs. That means just the planning of quality is not enough. There have to be people in the organization who have the responsibility and authority who ensure that the processes are delivering their desired or planned output. That means they have the responsibility and authority to review the processes, to analyze the processes. Point number C, top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for reporting on the performance of the quality management system. That means top management has to ensure that there are people in the organization who have the responsibility and authority to report the performance of the QMS, the performance of the quality management system, especially to the top management, and also to report on the opportunities for improvement. Now, these opportunities for improvement here has been referenced in 10.1. That means if you want to have a deeper details on opportunities for improvement, you can refer clause 10.1 of the ISO 9001. Which specially talks about the opportunities for improvement, in particular to top management. So the top management shall assign responsibilities and authorities in the organization such that there are people who will report specially to the top management on two things: the performance of the QMS in the organization and the opportunities for improvement. Point number D. So that means the top management should ensure that there are people who are responsible and authorized to ensure that the customer focus is always a priority throughout the organization in terms of indicators, objectives, and so on. Finally, point number E, top management should have people in the organization who will ensure the integrity of the quality management system. Integrity means the relevancy of the quality management system maintained when changes to the quality management system are planned and implemented. So for example, in situations if there is a change in any process and due to that we have to upgrade the quality management system or propose any changes in the quality management system, it should not happen that after these changes the quality management system is no more relevant in terms of the compliance to the 9001 standard. So this is what it means, that there should be people in the organization who should ensure the relevancy, the integrity of the quality management system, even when it is upgraded due to any changes in the process.